Today on 40 Thrive, why is Gwyneth Paltrow and Goop so polarizing? We'll hear two very different opinions. Plus, one of Goop Guides' go-to healers is here in the 40 Thrive studio. Not only do we discuss Goop's new Netflix show, but we dive deeper into what's really happening when we claim to be supporting each other as women. Plus, my big fat mess up and what I learned from posting while agitated.
You're listening to the 40 Thrive Podcast, the show created for women 40 and beyond, ready to shake things up. And now, your host, Jackie McDougall.
Welcome back to another episode of 40 Thrive. Before we get started with this week's episode, let's celebrate our Thriver of the Week. This week's Thriver of the Week is Julie Neal, founder of A Mother's Quest podcast and community. Julie says, "My 40s have been a time in my life that I like to refer to as my midlife renaissance. My life is far from perfect, but I'm seizing the opportunity to embrace who I am, share my voice, and have an impact in ways that I did not until this stage of my life." Congratulations, Julie. Thank you so much for your submission. To be considered for Thriver of the Week, check out the link in the show notes at 40thrive.com/episode 55. If you are part of our free and private community, I'm sure you saw the post recently about Gwyneth Paltrow's new Netflix show, Goop Lab. Now, she's had the website for over a decade, but the Netflix show is brand new and it's definitely getting people talking. I recently posted about Goop in our 40 Thrive community, and there was no shortage of opinions. I asked, how do you feel about Goop in 3 words or less? Overpriced vagina candle was one answer. Snake oil con woman and vile elitist pseudoscience were just a few of the comments that were flowing in. But not everyone was hopping on the anti-Goop bandwagon. There were actually plenty of women who shared their positive thoughts, from optimizing your life to interesting, relevant, refreshing. And even one woman shared, whether you agree with her or not, she's innovative and pushing the envelope. So true. So I definitely had to reach out to Beverly Hills OBGYN and advocate for women's integrative health, Dr. Suzanne Gilbert-Lenz, who calls Goop a wolf in sheep's clothing. I caught Dr. Suzanne at the end of the day in LA traffic, so the audio's not the best, but I want you to hear her thoughts in her own words.
So they couch their terminology in a way that makes it look like it's empowering to women, and we're here to help, and we're going to give you a different perspective, and we're going to tell you stuff that other people aren't going to tell you. So it's a little bit insidery and aspirational, which, okay, that's fine. But the thing is, they don't make it available to everybody. So that's not empowering. I mean, when you have a summit that costs anywhere from, something like $1,800 to $5,000, that's not available. That's for privileged women and primarily white women. And that is who it appeals to. It also, I think, appeals to some of our baser instincts like fear of aging, fear of not looking good, fear of not being sexy, the jade egg for our vagina so that our vagina looks better. And I don't know. I don't have a problem with people having their vagina feel better, but how your vulva, of course, Gwyneth famously apparently doesn't know the difference between vulva and vagina. The way your vulva appears, like, who gives a shit? So as you know, I know a lot about the stuff that she puts on her website because I live in a world where I do both. And I'm always very careful and very honest when I talk with these things with people, whether they're my patients, my friends, my followers, or people I'm teaching. And I like, as you know, to talk about the evidence and the science to support practices. So vaginal steaming, there's really no science to support it. If you want to do it and you understand what you're doing and you understand that it's also cultural appropriation and cherry picking from ancient traditions and, making it expensive for white ladies, and you're cool with that, great. But to say that it's going to fix your menstrual cramps or cure your fibroids is bullshit. There's no evidence to support that. So I don't see her saying that on the site. I feel like it's not empowering to make women afraid to age. And I don't see stuff on there that empowers women and that makes them feel good about who they are and where they are. There's always something else that they should be doing and they could be doing to look better, feel better, be sexier, be more appealing to men, basically, be more appealing to the patriarchy, be blonder, be skinnier. And that's just fucking bullshit. Sorry, I don't think that's empowerment.
Now, I want to continue the conversation with somebody who's somewhat close to the Goop brand. Stacey Justice has over 15 years experience as a professional intuitive tarot card reader and energy healer. She's also certified in hypnotherapy, past life regression, EFT, and Reiki. The Goop Guide calls her refreshingly laid back and equal parts straight up psychic and intuitive life coach. I really wanted to keep an open mind as I talked with Stacey. I really think it's the only way we can have these conversations. But one thing I realized is this is way more than ridiculous vaginal egg conversation, but really is about our ability to have open, honest dialogue about things we may or may not believe in using respectful, supportive language. I mean, really, how can we truly thrive without having an open mind and heart? But stick around to the end, because I share my honest thoughts on Goop Lab, currently on Netflix. I watched 3 episodes for you, and holy crap, I saw some things I cannot unsee, and I would love to share with you. Real quick, before I get into my conversation with Stacey, I invite you to head on over to 40thrive.com and download your 10 tips to start thriving today. Even if you take 1 or 2 of those tips and incorporate it into your life this week, you will feel much more grateful, productive, and ready to take on the world. That's 40thrive.com for your 10 tips to start thriving today. All right, let's get into my conversation with Stacey Justice. Stacey, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, Jackie, I'm so excited and thrilled, and thank you so much for inviting me. It's really cool to be here.
Stacey has over 15 years experience as a professional intuitive tarot card reader, which I'm fascinated by, and energy healer. She's also certified in hypnotherapy, past life regression, EFT, and Reiki. Mm-hmm. All of these things I'm super curious about. So you've been doing these healing modalities for a very long time. Mm-hmm. So I posted about Goop, Gwyneth Paltrow's company. They are very high-end healing modalities. They sell products. They
lifestyle.
sell.
It's a lifestyle brand.
Okay, it's a lifestyle brand. And you are one of their experts on the site.
Which is so interesting because, so can I share a little bit about
Please.
that? So what you posted was Goop Lab, which is on
Yes,
Netflix, right?
yes.
Which is part of her branding
Yes.
and blah, 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 blah. So I happen to be on the Goop Guide for intuitive healers,
Okay.
right? In the Los Angeles area. That happened to me, for me, because of one of my clients. So it has nothing to do with Gwyneth Paltrow.
Right.
She doesn't
Right.
probably even know who
Yeah.
the hell I am.
Yeah. Somebody suggested you. They vetted. They put you up
Exactly.
there.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yes.
And the website's been around for a while.
Yeah.
So I post about the Netflix show. It's like this year's Marie Kondo. It just happens to be Goop, you know, and their site has been making money and they've been doing these events and live things and, you know, they're very successful already, but they have this Netflix show. And so I posted in the group and asked, what's your opinion in 3 words or less? Because I do like to go 3 words or less because I think people get funny, they get creative, they get, you know, whatever. And I said good, bad, or otherwise. Now, before we get into the whole topic, I need to call myself out because what I shared when I asked that question was an opinion piece from NBC. And it was not the official trailer for the new show. And the opinion piece was scathing and opinionated, shockingly. And so what it did, or what it could have done, is get those people who are anti-Goop up first, like feeling empowered. Hey, I get to, you know, throw the stuff out. Some of the comments, in my opinion, were kind of funny. Some of the comments, a few of them got personal about Gwyneth herself.
Yes.
Which is a whole other show about talking about celebrities
Yes.
as if they're actual human beings and not
Remember, she's a wife and a mother, and she's had trauma, and she's a fallible human being, and she's doing the best that she can.
100%.
Right.
So I put that up there, and it was definitely inflammatory. And then later on in the comments, because somebody had called out the thread for being negative, I realized like I totally had a part in that. And so I was like, hey, you know what? I have a part in this. Now, we should be able to talk about topics. This isn't kumbaya. Let's like all sing together in perfect harmony.
Sure.
My goal with this brand is not just like, let's sugarcoat everything and like make it all vanilla. It's like, let's get deep. Let's talk. Let's debate if that's what's necessary. Let's respect each other while we do it. But let's not be afraid to stand up and show up and speak up, because one of the things that makes me get up in the morning is helping women find their voice. And I feel that over 40, sometimes women struggle to do that. Mm-hmm. And so I'm all for sharing their opinion. That being said, we shouldn't be trashing other women. We should not be tearing people down. I shouldn't be allowing any of that to happen. So you, brave soul, come into the group and you say, you know, you should have an open mind. Like, this is not cool. And I love that you come from this angle, but you really just shed a light, and you actually not only shed a light, but you invited other women to come in and to say, hey, I agree with her.
Yes.
And that's what I love.
I loved that too. And I think the most important thing for me, and this would be in anything, is that to look at it for what it is. It's a formatted program that's showing you different ways of healing. It really had not much to do with Gwyneth.
Yeah.
And that what I found most interesting about that is how they personally attacked her. And then I think about, what about you? Like, where are you coming from? You wouldn't want me to judge you in that way harshly. And it was uncomfortable. And I even said to you when I said, you know, my 3 words were be open-minded, mm-hmm. that these people had come and sharing themselves. And if you watch the program, some of the women are like these young women that are beautiful and being really vulnerable and putting themselves in a place that's, you could be lining up for, you know, fire.
Right.
You know, and that they had the courage to do that and to celebrate that and say, well, I may not agree with her, but I'm going to be open and be compassionate towards what the foundation of it is. And it's not about Gwyneth Paltrow. Right. It's about healing. And she just happens to be the person who has the name. And if you watch it, she's in it very little.
And so I do know that based on my research that there was an egg or something that they had.
Oh, the yoni egg.
Yeah.
Yes.
They had certain claims and they ended up settling for like $145,000 because they couldn't back up their claims. Goop, that is.
And they were selling the product?
They were selling the product. And then I was reading that she was quoted as saying, like, when they sell a third-party product in the past, before this lawsuit, they would take the claims of that product. That would be like me having you on and using your language for your brand and then just putting it out there. So some may say I have a responsibility to vet whatever it is that the person's claiming and not take it on. So since then, I saw that they have like scientists and researchers and all of that to not only just accept the claims of the third-party brand that they're promoting and benefiting from, but now their own in-house research. And that's progress.
And they said, yes, okay, we need to look at this and make sure that we're doing what we need to do.
Right.
Don't all companies do that?
Yeah. And I think that's exactly what growth is. When you realize you're making a mistake.
Yes.
And they made a mistake and they paid out. They weren't like accepting responsibility for it. They were just like, we want this to go away. That's what she was saying. But then they changed their practices after that.
I'm not for or against Goop. And even though I'm on there, again, it just happened to be that, which is interesting. I don't buy anything off of Goop. I don't get anything and I don't know Gwyneth Paltrow personally. I think, though, it's interesting that as women, we say that we want to support each other.
Yes.
And then here's this woman who's putting herself in, the modalities and the things that are on there are progressive, and they are whatever you want to call them, however you align with them, whatever your opinion is about them. She's still a woman trying to do something good. I think she's trying to do something good. Are you hitching your ride to that propaganda wheel and not getting the full story? And I appreciate you actually looking into that and researching that, right? Or have you done your research? And then if you've done your research, then can you be a little bit compassionate towards the idea that, oh, oops, we fucked up. We didn't know. We should have vetted. We should have done this. I should have been a little bit more, not just put that on about that yoni egg, that I can stick in my cooch and then everything's going to be great, because it may not work for everybody.
Right.
But I learned, and that's beautiful. And that she still shows up and that she didn't cave.
Well, that's a whole other topic, because we keep saying we want to put ourselves out there. We keep encouraging other women to put themselves out there, and then they do. And then there's, a rocky road or whatever it is. And we just completely close up shop, like pull the turtle head in and cover with our shells, because it's scary. It's scary. So scary.
And it's icky. I want so much, like all those women in this group, I want so much for them to thrive and so much for them to find their way of healing, that for you to think that there would be anything otherwise, it's kind of astounding to me, because I am such a good person now, and maybe to a fault, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe I need to look at, and I can also point out a soothsayer. I can point out a charlatan. I know energy. Yeah. I know who's, and maybe other people just because, they're not as connected to that.
Okay, so when you listen to this podcast, and if you're listening right now and you're like, oh yeah, I know Jackie is one of the two woos, like, woo-woo, I'm interested in the woo-woo. I am like open-minded. I want to learn. I think that there are things that have been happening for thousands of years.
Thank you.
That we act like somebody
Why
just
is it
came
woo-woo?
like they just pulled it out of their pocket, just because we grow up, specifically the US. We grow up here. And we're told certain things based on maybe our family's political background or interests.
And also
religious backgrounds and interests, the part of the country we live in, whether we're near the ocean or we're in, the middle or whatever. And so we're raised in a way that we are empowered to think, this is what I was taught, so this must be right.
This is what I'm taught, and it is right even. And that goes into...
Yeah. And if you don't believe this, you are wrong, and you are all the names.
Exactly. And then right. That's what I'm interested in. Why is it okay for you to be right, but it's not okay for me to be right? Even though I'm not about being right and wrong. I'm very open-minded and very excited about being on the planet and all this wonderful woo-woo. And what a time to be alive that we have access and know about these technologies that are thousands of years old.
Yes.
We get to align and be curious about healing and energy, and there's a different way of being, and that maybe if I'm taking these prescription medications that don't work, maybe there's another way that my mom can heal, if she's open to it. Are you open to the idea? Don't shut it down so quickly that you negate your own good. That's what interests me. It's like, you're so right now. You're making yourself so right that you're stopping an experience that you could have that could, first of all, not just blow your mind, but change your entire life.
Yeah.
And enhance it in a way, with healing. And I'm really interested in changing vocabulary, because healing, I'm so sick of that word. I'm sick of the word healing. I'm sick of the word my journey. Like these things because it's become bastardized a little bit. We have to use that word because I haven't found another word that actually works. But to me, it's
maybe we'll make one up.
Yes, it's coming. I keep telling Spirit.
Schniggle fluff.
Exactly.
That's the new word for healing. Pass it on.
When we're in our schniggle fluff properties, and we're moving into the space of, what does healing look like? Why are we healing? Now, of course, obviously, we can go to the foundation of healing, which is if someone's sick or if someone has something that shows up as not balanced in their body or whatever. That's obviously the first physical healing. There's emotional healing. There's spiritual healing, right? So what does that look like?
And they're all connected,
and
right?
I believe they're all connected because it's all energy. So when I talk about energy, when you get like this feeling in your body, there's this whoosh of energy. You can feel it. It shows up as a tingle or heat, unless you're menopausal. That could also be woo-woo. Yes. That feeling, that movement is energy moving through your system, which is an energy system, right? And this is where we can talk about acupuncture. We can talk about Tai Chi. We can talk about like all the ways that in Eastern medicine and these old, beautiful technologies, modalities of healing, that they tapped into that. There's this system,
Right.
right? What healing is to me is getting my system, mind, body, spirit, in balance so that I can have the best experience possible on the planet. Now, if I'm the person that's sitting and saying, well, I grew up and blah, 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 and this is what my mom said, this is what my daddy said, and my parent, it's a spin of the pattern of behavior that's always been there. Okay, if that's what you desire and you desire not to change, which most people don't like to change, and there's a whole reason for that, homeostasis, and the body wants to stay safe, same is safe. So that's great for you if that's what you desire. My request is that you allow for everyone else to have their own experience with as little judgment as possible. Because I'm also, we're judgmental, but can I have compassion for that person and say, wow, you know what? That little girl that had that trauma when she was growing up, she tried all this other stuff and she couldn't get there.
Yeah.
And then she went and she did ayahuasca and she had a fucking epiphany and her whole entire life changed. And then she's helping other people and she had her healing. That, woman over there went through all this stuff and endometriosis and blah, 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 and nothing worked. And she went to acupuncture and she had a healing. That's so great for her. Can I be in that space where it might not work for me, but it works for them, and yay.
Right.
I can hear someone go, well, how is tarot cards healing? I just heard someone. Well, again, there's a bridge. I'm interpreting energy.
Okay.
And I'm translating energy into words.
Okay.
To give you what you need to hear in order to take a step forward and move into whatever healing that you're looking for. I believe that we all have these abilities. We all have intuitive abilities. Psychic, if you want to use that word. I don't, it's you, because and especially moms have like the spidey senses.
Right.
That's all intuition is. All I do is I've just honed the skill.
Right.
Because I practice it every day.
If you can read the energy, I just mean the energy of a person. Like, I very quietly call myself an empath, not necessarily.
Yes.
Because when there's an energy in a room, I take it on.
Yep.
I start to talk like people. I start to get the same up here. I'm hype, or I'm and I have to sort of really manage myself because I'm constantly taking on. You could actually probably, if you're like someone like you, intuitive, listen to the podcast and actually hear me and how different I am.
Which actually makes you a really great interviewer because you're in with them, right?
Yeah.
You're at their level.
I'm feeling it like much more than just the conversation.
Yes. It makes you good at what it makes it listenable too, because you can feel like you're in it.
But it's a lot.
Yes,
and so when I'm like around, I've discovered, I call myself a problem solver because I'm pretty intuitive as far as like what needs to happen. But I also noticed that I try to solve problems because I can't stand having your energy.
Yes.
When you have a problem.
Yes.
If I could just fix it and then fix me.
Yes. Yes.
So if a friend comes to me and I'm like, oh, can I fix it? Because I got this.
It's because what I always say, a codependent is an unrealized empath. So the codependent.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. I'm going to say that again.
Yes.
The codependent is the unrealized empath. And especially with women, because most women are really empathic, if not empathic, empathic. And so you'll think unconsciously, or you're not thinking about it, but you're going to that mode of like, if they feel better, then I will feel better.
Right.
The challenge is that, first of all, trying to get them to feel better is kooky because they have to feel better on their own. Right. And we can help facilitate that. That's why I do what I do, because I'm an empath also. But it puts us in this spiral or this hamster wheel of always trying to fix. Because there's always going to be something to fix. There's always going to be a problem to solve. So I have to manage that and say, you know what, I'm not here to fix it. What I always say in my work too is that I'm an empath for purposes of diagnosis. So if I connect in with you, I have an empathic connection and I download what's going on. And then I go back to my higher self. And then that's where the prescription comes in. That's where I'm able to translate the energy, bring in the highest good, because what I'm connecting with energetically is not just my highest, it's also yours. So then people get off the phone and they feel empowered, and it's because I've connected them back to their highest self.
But here's the thing, Stacey. The only thing different from what you're doing versus like somebody who's more universally accepted is language.
Yes.
I always say, like, when I work with podcast students or video students or whatever, that I talk to somebody, I figure out very, very quickly what it is that makes you so damn special. And then I hold up a mirror so you see it and then go do all the things.
Exactly.
How is that any different?
It's not. It's just, well, the only difference
It's marketing.
is I'm doing it for spiritual healing or for emotional healing, and you're doing it for career. But they intersect.
Right.
You know, and so you become like those people that you've helped. You probably just didn't help change the way that they do podcasts. You probably helped change the way that they look at themselves, the way that they inhabit themselves. I'm going to inhabit myself. I'm going to take a stand in myself. They'll go through the day and they'll think about what you said in other places, in their relationship, right?
Yeah.
So that to me is
That's
the healer.
my favorite part of what I do.
Yes.
And I think if I had a little bit more healing under my belt, it would probably shift the way I show up with these people as well. Because I still don't necessarily, I mean, I've been through a lot and I've experienced a lot and I've come out on the other side and grown. But I think that there are modalities out there. I think there are ways to not take on everybody else's stuff as your own.
Well, another thing is when we take on everybody else's stuff, then we don't have to look at our own.
Oh, you're so smart.
That's why.
Son of a bitch.
Exactly. But that's why people project.
Yeah.
That's why there's this charlatan this and the blah, blah, that. It's because you're projecting your belief outward and you're not saying, well, wait a minute, let me look at this from a different perspective. Let me maybe try this on and maybe, why does this make me uncomfortable? Why does those modalities, that woo-woo, why does that make me uncomfortable? It has nothing to do with me. Yeah. I'm an amazing human being. And that you wouldn't talk to me because I have tarot cards, that's sad to me.
Yeah.
That you wouldn't sit, because I'll sit and talk with you and share with you why. And there's scientific backing about energy work and stuff like that. And I'm not like, an educator in that field, but I do enough research because I always call myself the most unlikely psychic because I'm not that lady.
Right.
Like I look like a California girl. I don't fit that mold of like the psychic on the corner. Right. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to know why I could do this. I didn't want to do it. It's too much. Being an empath is a lot. Mm-hmm. It's a lot to take on. And then for me to think that I could help somebody, who am I? My life is not, it's pretty good, but it could be a hell of a lot better. And there's a lot of spaces where I need healing myself.
Right.
But it kept coming back. And I started to ask, why am I able to do this? Why can I feel people's energy? Well, we're transmitters and receivers. We're just biological transmitters and receivers walking around. And now there's a place in San Francisco called the Heart Math Institute. They're doing research on the heart, and the electromagnetic field that comes out of the heart is at least 6 feet beyond our body. That's why we can feel people. Wow. Right? And then and the electromagnetic field, the heart sends more messages to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. The heart has its own intelligence. The intestinal tract has its own intelligence. They used to say we have one brain. Now they said we have 2 brains, which is the gut and now they're saying there's 3 brains. So there's fields of energy. And if we can tap into them and get to that space, that's what I'm interested in. So can we stop the bashing and can we just like sit in each other's love? Everybody is looking for love. Everybody's looking for something better in their life, regardless whether or not you agree with my, philosophies or my mindset is. Mm-hmm. And I don't have to agree with yours either. We can come to this common ground that we're all women, right? Mm-hmm. We're all working towards being more self-realized and having a voice.
Right.
And that, wow, that's so cool that you would go out on a limb, Stacey, and that you would do something that you, like my dad, my stepdad is a scientist. I think we don't really even talk about it. And I think he thinks, what in the fuck is she? How is she? I make a living doing this. Yeah. I have no 401k. I'm doing completely everything against what the United States of America has told us we need to do.
Right. I
got out of my corporate job. I stopped working for the misogynistic asshole. I said, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. Yep. After being traumatized, right? And I realized I did that to myself. I put myself in that position because I didn't know my worth. That's what I'm interested in. Let's get past these old paradigms, right, these old belief systems, and look at life in a way that's like, it's so incredible that we get to live right now. even 100 years ago, we just got the right to vote.
And so how do we come together as human beings? Do we need to heal that side of us? Is that why we're fighting so much?
Well, I have my theories about it. I think how we start is by saying, let me sit here and not have to be right. Let me see if I can let go of the need to be right, which is, by the way, a masculine trait. And I'd love to share what I mean by that. That if I can just sit here and actually be more feminine, meaning I can receive this person into my life, that I don't have to agree with them, but I can respect their point of view and then roll my eyes when I leave. No, I'm joking. But because there are people when you are like, wow, your belief system is so boxed in that I can't penetrate that. But I also don't want to be the judgmental person of saying, well, this person is stupid because they're in this old paradigm and they think that this is this and this is this. And I do think the more conversations we have, the more we're going to realize that we're all kind of want to meet in the middle.
Right.
We really do. We all really want the same things. We want our kids to be safe, happiness, whatever that looks like for you. And that's what I'm interested in, is why everyone says, oh, I just want to be happy. Then why are you focusing all on the negative shit? Then why are you judging and projecting out all of your anger? That's not going to make you happy. Let me tell you. Projecting your anger out is not going to make you happy. What's going to make you happy is for you to look at, why am I so angry? And why am I not taking responsibility for my part in this anger? There's something going on that needs to be checked out.
And I see that with people who are fearful.
It's all fear.
It's all fear-based, and that, maybe things are going on in their lives, or they're not living the life they want to be living. And then they get so fixated on this outward stuff that has absolutely no bearing.
And take responsibility. What responsibility do you have in this? And this is where I'm going to get woo-woo. So in astrology...
Oh, this is where you're going to get woo-woo.
Yeah. The Piscean age, which was 2,000 years, was all about patriarchal energy. And if you study astrology, and I'm just a novice at it, but it's very fascinating, what it represents is hidden things and the patriarch and no self-realization, that I have to go to a guru, or I have to go to someone that's above me and worship them, and that they can give me that. So that's been in our system, and then also misogyny and all the stuff that's coming to the surface that we see in the media. We're moving into the Aquarian age now. And Aquarian age is all about, well, think about, this is the dawning of the age, right? That there's community, but it's community through self-actualization and self-realization. So the more authentic I am, and the more that I show up in my purpose, and I give my gifts, which is what you're doing. You're an Aquarian, because you're authentic to yourself. You're like, this is the path that I'm not gonna be in the old paradigm anymore. I'm not going to buy off on that patriarchal bullshit anymore. The goal is for love. It's the difference between fear and love. That's the bottom line. Are you going to live in fear? Right. And are you going to be, every time something comes at you, are you going to go, oh, this must be against me. I need to attack it. I need to resist it. I need to hypervigilantly manage it. Or are you going to go, you know what? I'm actually really solid in my foundation, and I know that I'm safe. And this is really interesting. And I'm interested to know more. Maybe something will shift in me, and maybe I can have more compassion for that person. And that's my goal. I want to have compassion for the people that don't like me. or that
well, you're not for everyone, girl. I mean, that's what I say to everyone. I say it to myself. I say it to my kids. You remember growing up, and even now, there's a cashier who's angry, or there's just a person that you see in your everyday life, a coworker. You know that she does not prefer you. We can sit here and be like, oh, she's having a bad day. Or maybe she just doesn't like your energy.
And that's okay.
Let it go.
Yeah. And can I have compassion for that, and to understand that, and not to take it personally, right?
Right. Because that's what we do. If 9 people in the room could like you and one doesn't, that's who we focus on.
Exactly. And that's programmed.
Yes.
And it's also part of instinct. Instinct, we'll pick out what the worst case scenario is so that we can feel safe, which is fear. Yeah. Instinct is fear. And what we're moving into, whether you like it or not, we don't need to be an instinct anymore. Everybody's pretty much well taken care of. And especially this, the demographic that's listening to this, they want something more, right? They're on their healing journey, whatever that looks like for them. And I've been doing that my entire life. I did not follow a trajectory of what women are supposed to do.
Right.
Right. And I'm so happy that I didn't. Has it been painful? Yes, because I've allowed myself to go into the pain instead of negating the pain, satiating the pain.
How does one do that?
Sit with it when it comes. So we're so used to numbing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And numbing can show up as I listened to, your podcast, the last one, and you talked about how you became the hero. Right. And I'm going to overcome everything. That's a form of numbing. So, and you said, so now I allow myself to sit in it and go, what is this about? So I go into the pain and I ask it what it needs. And I believe that we have all these different voices in our head, right? We have the higher self. We have the little girl that's wounded. We have the critical self. There's all these different aspects of us. And so I allow that little girl energy to come in and be okay with the pain, cry, really go into it, and then talk myself through it with the higher self. Be with it instead of going and grabbing a beer or going and running or doing, I be with the pain while it's there.
Right.
And allow for it to move. Awareness is key, first of all, to have the awareness. So if I go into my own hurt and take responsibility for it and recognize that was just a trigger and that's been in my system. And again, here comes the energy because the pain is felt in the body. Yeah. Right? That's in your nervous system. And most people want to talk them. They want to stay in their head and they want to talk themselves out of it. So you've got to get into your body and feel it and identify it and say it's okay to go. And you keep doing that because it doesn't, and that's another thing too. It doesn't just go away, right? It's layered. There's medical mediums that actually go into your system and actually see where things are stuck, right? Or, some people can even diagnose, like see tumors and all kinds of stuff. It's very interesting. Wow. So what I feel that I can do on some level is kind of go into the system and feel where the energy is stuck. And there's themes. So like a lot of women have sexual trauma. So the stuck energy will be on the left side, the left oblique. Yep. There'll be stuck energy there. So if you can identify where the pain is also, so, oh God, there it is. Okay. And you can ask it. And this is kind of cheesy, but ask it, do you want to go? And have a dialogue with it. Get real
My
with
pain's like, nah, I'm good.
No. Exactly. And then if you want, and then if it says, I want to stay, say, what do you need to go? Yeah. It's not a perfect art. But it's a way to connect because most of us are disconnected. Yeah. And again, we're numbing or we're projecting out. So to just sit with it, because the challenge is if you don't sit with the pain, it's going to keep coming up. Yeah. Because it's the reason why we're here is to get, this is what I believe. We carry things through. I believe that we have many lives and that each life we carry through whatever whatever needs to be learned. And unfortunately, we learn through pain. We learn through trauma because if everything was hunky-dory, we wouldn't expand or grow. Right. We grow through the resistance. We grow through the contrast is a better way to say it. So if that's being brought to me, and if I can take responsibility and say, oh, well, I have abandonment issues. This is my thing, that one of the things that I need to heal. And I get real with that. Then my experience in my life is more joyful. Right. Which is what everybody wants. Yes. What do you want? Oh, I just want to be happy. Okay, well, how are you going to get there? You're not going to get there by projecting your shit on other people. You're not going to get there by blaming other people.
I do want to have a little bit of a conversation about, so this company, Goop, they're putting it out there as a means to help people heal. Yep. That is their mission. But there's also an attitude in the world, or at least in this country, that if you are going to do good work, it should be dirt cheap.
And that's interesting to me because why?
Well, this is exactly it. So I will be honest that I'll go on the website and I'm like, $600 shoot, like that's not who I am.
That's not who I am either.
That's not my brand. That's not, I grew up blue collar Boston. Yep. That's who I am. That's who I attract. Everyday women who want to have a better life.
Yes. And that's me too.
And so I look at some of this and I have that first reaction of
I
like,
have too.
Oh geez, I would never spend that much money on that.
Sure.
That being said, I notice so many women who are broke, who are unhappy. They have these money blocks. And one of the first things, if you go to some expert who tries to help you with money blocks, they will say, like, what are your attitudes toward money? Right. And so one of the attitudes is like, oh, that's too expensive. Yes. They shouldn't, that's crazy. Yes. She just wants more money. She's just greedy. Like all of the programming comes out. Right. And so this is another example that if you want to be better in your life, if you want to release money blocks, if you want, and I'm going to actually do an episode on that coming up. But if you want to really attract high vibe energy and great things into your life, you need to get over your shit.
I mean, we could also use Oprah as an example.
Yeah.
She's very much, she's actually more into it than Gwyneth is in regard to like the healing part of it. Mm-hmm. There is a spiritual elitist thing. I've seen that myself, where there can be an attitude around.
Well, yeah, you need to have a lot of money in order to be worthy of healing, basically.
Which is not true, because you can go to, for instance, I'm no more than a therapist. Right. And there's also, do some research around other people. What I would use Goop for, just because my threshold of, I'm not going to pay, $500 for whatever healing modality, because I also know that there's people that can do it for less expensive. But what I would use it for is like, oh, wow, that's a really cool modality. I would like to know more. Maybe there's someone in my price range, and do the research. So it becomes a tool. It becomes a reference. Then you don't have to buy anything.
Right.
You don't have to be. And I feel that most of the people that are doing that is because they're jealous. Because,
well, yeah, that happens.
And I get that. I mean,
look at people who are in like tip-top shape, right? Like tip-top shape. And people go, that's because they can afford a trainer.
Yes.
Like as if the trainer lifted their arm for them.
Yes.
Like they can afford a trainer and a chef. Like granted, it's hard to get the motivation stuff. Those things do help.
Yes.
But we automatically write them off because they have money for a trainer and a chef.
Yes. And then also that they're exempt from problems.
Yes.
You know what? More money, more problems.
Yes.
There's this Yogi Bhajan, I follow some of his teachings. They're one of his disciples or whatever. That's not what they call it. But her name's Guru Jagat. Anyway, she teaches. And she said, how you handle failure is how you handle success. We have this kind of idea that if I get to my destination, then all that stuff that I had to deal with when I wasn't doing so hot is going to go away. It actually amplifies.
Yeah.
And so they may have more resources, right? In whatever that even means. And I believe that we all have the same amount of resources. And if you want to make that an excuse, and I've done that too. It's really easy to make that an excuse.
Right.
And then, but how far is that going to get you? Again, projecting out. What am I projecting out that I need to look at inward?
Yeah.
If I'm making a judgment about this person, I need to look at why am I judging them in that way? And what can I learn about myself? Because I am projecting out and I have that judgment. In the law of attraction, they say every person that comes into your life is a reflection of an aspect of you. So if a person is, you get what I'm saying? So if a person's coming into your life and they're rubbing you that wrong way, what is it in you that's causing the rub? Marianne Williamson says, if you have a problem with someone, pray for them for 30 days because it's your problem, and then just try it and then see how much better you feel. One thing too is about this work and about all of it, it's so messy. It's not linear. Yeah. There's so many working parts and there's so many different aspects of us and there's so many different variables. There is a foundation though of either fear or love. And if I can go back to the foundation of where do I want to hang out? Do I want to hang out in the fear and the paradigms and the beliefs that I don't even maybe believe? Or do I want to look at them from a space of love and ask the question, how is this serving me? How is my fear serving me? How is that preconceived notion about this other woman that I really have no clue about?
Right.
How is that serving me? What does that do for me?
Right. And, here's the thing, like you can find somebody annoying. It's okay.
Sure.
I
found myself annoying.
Gwyneth has been annoying people like consciously uncoupling years ago. Like,
right.
People have been.
Which is so funny because that's such a big, now it's the way to uncouple is consciously.
She doesn't have to be for me.
Exactly.
I'm probably not going to spend any time over at Goop or go to their events or things like that because it just isn't for me. But you're absolutely right that I don't need to like burn it down just because it's not for me. I do want to ask you one last question. If somebody was like, you know what, I'm just open-minded and I want to check out some things, what would they do?
I go on YouTube. I'm a big research person. And I posted this in the comments about pseudoscience. Joe Dispenza.
Yes.
So he's doing a lot of research around creating your reality that they're on a quantum level, that we are actually creating our life. He talks about how our genes express. So does Bruce Lipton. Bruce Lipton is really he's the one who termed epigenetics.
Okay.
Right? So because the goal is to get empowered first and to realize that you actually can do something and that you can take dominion over your body, right? Because I think what we've been programmed to believe is that, the pill is going to fix it, or I've got to do something. The healing properties that we have internally, that our body is constantly healing itself, right? That's why these things come up. That's why you feel like shit, is because the body's saying you're not in balance and you need to do something to get straight.
Right.
First, take responsibility for it and then say, okay, what do I need? And what feels good to you? I think this is where women's intuition is important. Do I want to go into a modality? What I'll notice is if you have a hit like, I think acupuncture might be really good, follow that.
Right.
If you say to the universe, I'm ready to heal. I mean, there's someone who's listening to this podcast has said that, and they're hearing this. I believe that the universe is going to provide you signs and it's going to show you the way, but you have to be open to it. I remember when I was like 20 years old and I was miserable and I was living with my ex-husband, who wasn't even my husband at that point. God, you've got to help me. And at that point I had none of this. There was these small dresser drawers and I pulled the drawer to look for something and the drawer came all the way out. And underneath the drawer was the book, The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. And I was like, what the? Of course, I read the book and that was one of the first things that got me to thinking about that. And then I would just say affirmations all the time. My point is that follow your guidance system. If you make the commitment to yourself, it's going to unfold. Trust me. And then become curious about it. Become curious about your pain. Become curious about what needs to happen in order for me to have the experience that I desire. And I think it's also important to recognize that we're not always going to be happy. We're not always going to be, it doesn't work like that.
Right.
We all, being a human being, we have the spectrum of emotion. And then I can actually fall in love with my pain. I can be okay with my pain. I can say, it's a great teacher. And then it dissipates.
Right.
Once I even just acknowledging it, there's a saying, awareness builds consciousness. So there's another saying, once it's revealed, it's 2/3 healed. So once you have the awareness of it, that's huge. Just having awareness, just saying, oh, wow, there it is again. Ooh, gosh, I was kind of a bitch today. I wonder what that's about. Maybe it's hormonal. Maybe it's not. Start to question and ask your body. The body's really, really, especially for women, our bodies are miraculous and self-healing. And when we help it, it will help us. When we align with it, it goes, oh, wow, you're actually paying attention to me? Wow. And what I want to share about that with women, because women don't love themselves, right? They don't love their body. Probably 90%. It's
pretty high.
It's pretty high, right? So I always tell people, loving yourself, what does that mean? Well, sometimes it's hard for me to love my whole body, but I can love the hell out of my elbow. And the idea that my heart pumps my blood all the way down to my toes,
right,
and I can feel my toes, that to me is miraculous. So I can love that. I can love the body for what it does.
Right.
Start there also. Like, okay, body, I love you. Let's do this.
That's because we're so focused on, you can love your body or not love your body based on how it looks in the mirror.
Exactly.
Before we go, how would people work with you if they wanted to reach out to you?
So the best thing to do is go on my website, Stacey Justice, and it's STACEY JUSTIS.
Okay.
Just is.
Okay.
Not like justice of the peace. Just is. And then check it out. And there's an online portal for setting up appointments. You can email me.
Thank you so much.
It's such a pleasure.
I gotta say, I learned a few things today. And maybe in other ways, my mind wasn't necessarily changed, but it is open to not just shutting things down before I've actually given myself a chance to think, why am I so closed off? If that's you as well, then I think we accomplished something today. Now, as I promised, let me get into my thoughts on Goop Lab. I watched 3 episodes and I will tell you, it does definitely push the envelope. And while they are the same people who feature vaginal eggs and smelly candles, the show does feel different from pushing a $400 bustier. I will give them that. It highlights healing modalities that are often seen as outrageous, but nothing I've seen yet goes down the line of dangerous, in my opinion. Expensive? Out of touch? Maybe, but not dangerous. And while not every woman in America is able to book a trip to Jamaica to do therapy while high on mushrooms or run off to New York to have a group orgasm, I do like that they're bringing up topics that a lot of us really haven't considered, including female pleasure. Seriously, it's nice that it's not all about the men. And they do shed light on some interesting anxiety relief without drugs, how to create emotional connection with ourselves and others. And I do admit there were a few things in the episodes that actually made me stop and Google to get more information. So I guess by highlighting some of these ideas, then they're providing people an opportunity to dig further into something that may or may not work for them later. So if you like that sort of thing, or you don't like that sort of thing, go do you, be you, embrace what works for you. And most importantly, let other women do what works for them without ridicule and shame. Thank you so very much for listening. Please share this episode with a friend and let me know what you think. Let's connect in our free and private Facebook group. Just go to 40thrive.com/group. Until next time, take care and keep thriving. Spring has sprung, and with the change of seasons, sometimes comes an increase in vitality. If you're feeling in the mood for a little more personal time, may I suggest Coconut. Coconut is all about providing clean and natural ingredients when you're enjoying your most intimate moments, with or without a partner. Naturally safe products developed by people who are obsessed with quality. Get 15% off with promo code GROWNASS at grownasswoman.guide/Coconut. That's 15% off with promo code GROWNASS at grownasswoman.guide/Coconut.